Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 350 chainsaw. The customer complaint is that it's not oiling. And you can see from the bar here that it's been running dry. The biggest clue there would be where the paint is missing on the edges of the bar. And look inside this clutch cover. That thing is burnt. That clutch looks pretty burnt up too. So things got hot in here. And that's from friction from the oil. Now you'll see in here a little bit later that that clutch might have been slipping as well. So one thing we want to do is just check the condition of the bar. If this is supposed to be a 50 gauge bar and chain, we want to make sure that when I put the 58 gauge in there, that it doesn't drop into the slot of the bar. If it did, we would replace the bar. And his chain looks usable. Clean some of the schmutz out of here on the side of the saw. So the customer is standing in the showroom waiting. We do this, periodically if someone comes in and they want their saw replaced right away and it's a simple enough task that we have parts for and they're not a jerk about it. We can sneak them in sometimes. But before I spend any money on oiler parts, I want to make sure there's nothing else wrong with the saw. If this thing's got a scored cylinder, then I have to go out in the showroom and talk to them about it. But it looks good in there, so we'll put this back together for him. Watch the monkey try and get a spark plug back in. There we go. All right. Let's get this clutch off of here. This tool I'm using to take the clutch off is a special Husqvarna tool. And the threads on most chainsaw clutches are reversed. So you turn it to the right to loosen it. Now all that heat has made this clutch drum hot enough to melt itself, to melt the oiler gear, and it's stuck right to the clutch drum. So let's dig a little deeper and get underneath the chain guide plate and see what that oil pump looks like. I mean, what's this here? This hunk of crap, is this plastic or debris? I'm not sure. But if that was jammed up in the oil gear, maybe that's why the pump wasn't turning to begin with. It's pretty ugly in here. I mean, there's some debris. There's some evidence of high heat. But that pump still turns. And if the oil feed from the tank to the pump is still good, and the discharge hose isn't blocked, there's a fair chance it works. Man, that thing got hot. So this clutch was probably slipping. You can see that it doesn't look like it's worn even around the shoe of the clutch. We're just going to sand it a little bit. You can maybe see better what I mean. There's a spot in there that's worn. And the less surface area you have contacting the drum, the less bite you have. Maybe it was slipping. Maybe it's the way the guy runs the saw. Maybe the rakers are cut too low on the chain and it's really grabbing. There's a few different possibilities why that got hot like that. Maybe he ran it with the chain brake on. I mean, that clutch cover doesn't look that great. It's pretty burnt in there too. And I don't know the history of this saw. You know, at some point someone could have replaced this brake band because they did, you know, smoke that brake having it on. Who knows? What I'm getting at is all that burnt condition could be previous to this latest problem. So this is our worm drive, our oiler worm gear. Put a little bit of grease on it, installing it over the end of the crankshaft. What are we looking for? So here's our clutch drum and a new clutch needle bearing. Put some grease on that. Here's our new drum. And we'll spin the clutch on there. Remember, the threads are backwards. So if you just crank on this thing right now with an impact, it's going to bind against that starter. That's why I usually pull the rope out a little bit so that we're not going to break anything in the starter mechanism. Yep, we got the spark plug tight. Air filter looks kind of crappy. Again, the guy's standing out in the showroom waiting for this thing, so I want to have it ready to go. I mean, we're eight minutes into this thing. You know, maybe realistically with having to chase the parts down or whatever, 10 or 15 minutes, whatever. So if this thing starts and oils, then that's all I'm going to have for you on the Husqvarna 350 chainsaw oiler, worm gear, and clutch repair. Thanks for watching. Later.